motivate you. I'm here to show you how 6 months of focused action can change the next 6 years of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Your life will not change because the calendar changes. Your life changes when you change. 6 months from now, most people will be in the same place with the same problems, making the same excuses, just in a new year, but not you. Because today, you're not here for motivation. You're here for transformation. Point 1, decide who you be becoming. Before you change what you do, you must decide who you are. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. If you see yourself as average, you'll produce average results. If you see yourself as disciplined, focused, and valuable, you'll act accordingly. Ask yourself this powerful question. Who must I become in the next 6 months to live the life I want in 2026? Decide today. Because once the decision is made, behavior follows. Point 2, eliminate the old to make room for the new. You can't build a new future with old habits. Some people want a better life but refuse to let go of toxic conversations, comfort routines, entertainment addictions, fear-based thinking. Listen carefully. Everything you say yes to is costing you something. If it doesn't move you forward, it's pulling you backward. 6 months of saying no to distractions will give you decades of freedom. Point 3, upgrade your thinking before you upgrade your income. Your income is not your biggest problem. Your thinking is money follows value. Value follows skill. Skill follows learning. If you think like an employee, you'll earn like one. If you think like a problem solver, opportunities will chase you. Read every day. Listen every day. Feed your mind intentionally. Because once your thinking changes, your results have no choice but to change. Point 4, create ruthless daily discipline. Success is not a big moment. It's boring, daily discipline done consistently. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, but because you decided 6 months of focused mornings, structured routines, non-negotiable standards will separate you from 95% of people. Discipline is the bridge between intention and outcome. Point 5, position yourself around growth, not comfort. Your environment is either a thermostat or a thermometer. If you stay around people who complain, you'll complain. If you stay around people who grow, you'll grow. Change your inputs, what you watch, who you listen to, what conversations you tolerate. You don't need more motivation. You need a better environment. Point 6, execute with faith, focus, and relentless action. Faith without action is fantasy. You don't need more time. You need speed. Take the step. Launch the idea. Make the call. Apply the discipline. 6 months of focused execution can do what 6 years of hesitation never will. Let me leave you with this. 6 months from now, you will be impressed or disappointed. That decision is being made today. Not in January, not next Monday. Now, decide who you are. Remove what's holding you back. Upgrade your thinking. Discipline your days. Change your environment. Execute relentlessly. And when 2026 arrives, your life will introduce you to a version of yourself you never thought possible. Most people try to change their lives by changing what they do, but lasting transformation never starts with action. It starts with identity. You will never consistently do what contradicts who you believe you are. If you see yourself as undisciplined, you will always find a reason to quit. If you see yourself as average, you will subconsciously avoid extraordinary opportunities. Your behaviors are simply a reflection of the story you tell yourself about who you are. That's why the most powerful decision you can make is not what goal you want to achieve, but who you are deciding to become. When you decide who you're becoming, your actions no longer require constant motivation. They become natural. A disciplined person doesn't debate whether to show up. They show up because that's who they are. A focused person doesn't struggle with distractions. They remove them because they don't align with their identity. Identity simplifies decision-making. It removes negotiation. It creates internal alignment between your thoughts, your actions, and your outcomes. Look at your current life honestly. Every result you see, your income, your habits, your confidence, your relationships, is proof of an identity you've been living from, whether consciously or unconsciously. Change the identity, and the results must change. This is why temporary effort fails. People try to act like someone they are not, and eventually they revert back to their default self. But when identity shifts, effort becomes consistency, and consistency becomes momentum. Deciding who you're becoming means choosing standards instead of goals. Goals can be missed. Standards are lived. A goal says, I want to be successful. A standard says, I am the type of person who does what successful people do every day. One is optional. The other is non-negotiable. When you raise your standards, your behavior rises automatically to meet them. This decision must be specific, not vague, not emotional. You must define the version of yourself you are stepping into. How does this person think under pressure? How do they manage their time? What do they tolerate? More importantly, what do they refuse to tolerate? Clarity creates power. When you know who you are becoming, distractions lose their appeal, excuses lose their credibility, and fear loses its authority. Identity also determines your self-talk. You will never outperform the voice you listen to the most. When your identity changes, the internal dialogue changes. Instead of asking, can I do this? You start asking, what's the next move? Instead of saying, this is hard, you say, this is required. Language follows identity, and identity follows decision. The moment you decide who you're becoming, you create internal pressure to act in alignment with that decision. This pressure is not stress, it's integrity. It's the discomfort you feel when your actions don't match your declared identity. That discomfort becomes fuel, not friction. It pushes you forward instead of pulling you back. In the next 6 months, you don't need to reinvent your entire life overnight. You need to lock in one clear identity and protect it daily. Every choice becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Every habit either confirms that identity or contradicts it. Over time, those votes compound, and the world begins to respond differently to you because you are showing up differently. When identity comes before action, change becomes inevitable. You stop chasing outcomes and start embodying the person who naturally produces them. And once that decision is made, the question is no longer if your life will change. It's how fast most people say. They want a new life, but what they really want is a new outcome without releasing the old patterns that created their current reality. That is not transformation. That is wishful thinking. You cannot step into a new season while carrying habits, mindsets, and environments that belong to a past version of you. Growth requires subtraction before it allows multiplication. Until you create space, nothing new can truly enter. Everything in your life is either adding energy or draining it. Every conversation, routine, commitment, and belief is shaping your future in one direction or another. When you hold on to what no longer serves you, you silently block what could elevate you. This is why letting go feels uncomfortable, because familiarity is mistaken for safety. But comfort has a cost, and that cost is the future you could have built. Eliminating the old starts with honesty. You must be willing to look at your life without excuses and identify what is outdated. Some habits once helped you survive, but now they limit your growth. Some relationships once felt supportive, but now reinforce mediocrity. Some routines once brought relief, but now steal time, focus, and clarity. Just because something is familiar does not mean it is aligned with where you are going. Letting go is not about loss, it is about alignment. When you remove distractions, you gain direction. When you remove toxic influences, you regain mental clarity. When you remove low-value activities, you recover time, and time is the most expensive asset you own. What most people call sacrifice is actually an exchange. Short-term comfort traded for long-term freedom. Old patterns fight to survive. They will justify themselves. They will whisper that you're overreacting, that now is not the right time, that you can do this later. But later is the language of stagnation. Progress demands decisive action. You don't need to slowly drift away from what's holding you back. You need to deliberately cut ties with it. This also applies to internal baggage, outdated beliefs about what you deserve, what you're capable of, or what's possible must be released. You cannot build confidence on top of self-doubt or ambition, on top of fear. Mental clutter creates emotional resistance, and emotional resistance blocks execution. Clearing the old beliefs creates mental space for discipline, courage, and focused action to grow. Elimination creates momentum. The moment you remove what drains you, your energy increases. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence grows, not because something external changed, but because you reclaimed control. Clarity is not found by adding more options. It is found by removing the unnecessary. Simplicity is power. The next 6 months require intentional separation. Separation from habits that keep you average. Separation from environments that reward comfort over growth. Separation from routines that numb you instead of stretching you. This is not punishment, it is preparation. You are making room for the next version of yourself. When you eliminate the old, you don't feel empty, you feel lighter. And in that space, discipline takes root, clarity expands, and opportunity finally has room to enter. What you release today determines what you are able to receive tomorrow. Most people chase money without ever questioning the thinking that produces their current financial reality. They focus on tactics, opportunities, and shortcuts, yet remain trapped at the same income level year after year. That's because income is not the starting point, it is the outcome. Money is a response to value, and value is created by the way you think. Until your thinking evolves, any increase in income will be temporary, inconsistent, or unsustainable. Your financial results are a mirror. They reflect how you solve problems, how you make decisions under pressure, how you perceive opportunity, and how you respond to risk. If your thinking is limited, your income will be limited. If your thinking expands, your income has room to expand with it. This is why two people can be given the same opportunity and produce completely different outcomes. The difference is not access, it is perspective. Upgrading your thinking requires moving from consumption to creation. Most people are trained to follow instructions, seek approval, and avoid mistakes. That mindset produces safety, not growth. Wealth is built by those who think in terms of leverage, systems, and long-term value. When your thinking shifts from how do I earn more to how do I become more valuable, your entire approach changes. You stop chasing paychecks and start building assets, skills, relationships, and solutions that compound over time. Thinking upgrades also require responsibility. A low-level mindset looks for blame on the economy, on circumstances, on other people. A high-level mindset looks for leverage. It asks, what can I control? What can I learn? What skill, if mastered, would change everything? Responsibility is not about guilt. It is about power. The moment you accept responsibility for your outcomes, you regain control over your future. Your thinking is shaped by what you repeatedly expose yourself to. If your inputs are shallow, emotional, and reactive, your thinking will be the same. If your inputs are intentional, strategic, and growth-oriented, your thinking elevates. Reading, listening, studying, and observing with purpose rewires how you interpret the world. Over time, you stop reacting to problems and start anticipating them. That anticipation is where income growth lives. Upgrading your thinking also means learning to delay gratification. Short-term pleasure competes directly with long-term wealth. Impulsive decisions feel good now, but steal from your future. Strategic decisions often feel uncomfortable in the moment, but pay dividends later. When your thinking matures, you begin to value progress over pleasure and investment over indulgence. That shift alone can change your financial trajectory. As your thinking improves, so does your confidence. Not emotional confidence, but grounded confidence, the kind that comes from understanding cause and effect. You stop guessing and start calculating. You recognize patterns. You make fewer emotional decisions and more strategic ones. This level of clarity makes you more decisive, and decisiveness is highly rewarded in every marketplace. When you upgrade your thinking, income becomes a byproduct rather than a pursuit. You don't chase money. You attract it by becoming someone who consistently produces value. And once your thinking operates at a higher level, your income has no choice but to follow. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because their lives are ruled by inconsistency. Motivation comes and goes, emotions rise and fall, but discipline is what determines the direction of your life. If you want results that are uncommon, your daily standards must be uncommon. Ruthless daily discipline is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline removes decision fatigue. When your standards are clear, you don't waste mental energy negotiating with yourself. You wake up knowing what must be done, and you do it. There is power in eliminating internal debate. The moment you stop asking, should I, and start acting from "this is who I am," your productivity increases and your stress decreases. Clarity creates momentum. Ruthless discipline means structuring your days with intention. Time is not managed by chance, it is directed by design. Without structure, distractions take over and urgency replaces importance. When your day is planned around your highest priorities, your energy is protected. You begin to move with purpose instead of reacting to whatever demands your attention first. Control over your schedule is control over your life. This level of discipline also requires boundaries. You cannot be disciplined and available to everything at the same time. Saying yes to low-value activities is saying no to your future. Ruthless discipline is the ability to protect your focus, even when it makes you unpopular or uncomfortable. You stop explaining your standards and start enforcing them. Respect follows clarity. Daily discipline compounds quietly. The small actions that seem insignificant today are building momentum beneath the surface. Showing up when no one is watching, doing the work before you feel ready, and staying consistent when progress feels slow. These behaviors separate professionals from amateurs. Discipline creates trust with yourself, and self-trust creates confidence. Confidence then fuels even greater action. Ruthless discipline also trains emotional control. You learn not to be ruled by boredom, frustration, or fear. Instead of reacting, you execute. Instead of quitting, you adjust. Emotional stability becomes one of your greatest assets because you are no longer dependent on external validation or internal mood. You operate from commitment, not convenience. Over 6 months, disciplined actions reshape identity. You begin to see yourself as reliable, focused, and capable. That self-perception changes how others respond to you and how opportunities find you. People trust discipline. Individuals, markets reward them. Growth follows them. Ruthless daily discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is the decision to live according to your highest standards, not your lowest impulses. When discipline becomes your default, success stops being something you chase and becomes something you create. Most people underestimate how much their environment controls their behavior. They believe their results are the product of willpower, when in reality they are shaped by what surrounds them every day. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't announce itself as danger. It feels safe, familiar, and easy. But comfort slowly lowers your standards, dulls your ambition, and convinces you that staying the same is acceptable. Growth, on the other hand, demands friction. It requires you to place yourself in spaces that challenge how you think, how you act, and how you see yourself. You will never consistently outperform your environment. If you're surrounded by people who normalize excuses, you will find reasons to delay. If you are surrounded by people who settle, you will unconsciously shrink your goals to fit in. Environment shapes expectations, and expectations shape behavior. This is why changing your surroundings can create instant momentum without requiring motivation. When growth becomes normal around you, effort becomes easier. Positioning yourself around growth means being intentional about who has access to your time, attention, and energy. Not everyone deserves proximity. Some relationships are comfortable but costly. They drain focus, reinforce old identities, and keep you anchored to who you used to be. Growth requires the courage to choose alignment over approval. Sometimes that means outgrowing rooms, conversations, and even people who can no longer go where you are headed. Growth-oriented environments stretch you. They expose your gaps, challenge your assumptions, and raise your standards. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because you are no longer the smartest or most capable person in the room. But that discomfort is feedback, not failure. It reveals what you need to develop. When you consistently place yourself around people who think bigger, move faster, and demand more of themselves, your own behavior begins to elevate automatically. Comfort environments reward stagnation. They encourage entertainment over execution and distraction over discipline. Time passes quickly, but progress moves slowly. Growth environments, however, create urgency. They make wasted potential obvious. They push you to act, learn, and adapt. In these spaces, excuses are exposed and accountability becomes unavoidable. Positioning yourself around growth also applies to what you consume mentally. The content you watch, the conversations you engage in, and the information you absorb all influence your mindset. If your inputs are passive and reactive, your thinking will be the same. If your inputs are intentional and challenging, your thinking sharpens. Over time, your standards rise not because you force them to, but because your environment demands it. Growth is not always loud or glamorous. Often it is quiet, disciplined, and uncomfortable. But it is always productive. When you consistently choose growth over comfort, you train yourself to tolerate pressure without panic and challenge without retreat. This resilience becomes a competitive advantage. Over 6 months, your environment can redefine your trajectory. When you deliberately position yourself where growth is expected and comfort is limited, you remove friction from progress. You stop relying on motivation and start moving in alignment. And once growth becomes your default environment, staying the same is no longer an option. Most people don't fail because they lack knowledge, they fail because they hesitate. They wait for certainty, perfect timing, or guaranteed outcomes before they move. But progress does not respond to hesitation. It responds to action. Faith is not passive belief, it is confidence expressed through movement. When you execute with faith, you act before you have all the answers, trusting that clarity will meet you on the path, not before it. Faith gives you permission to start. It quiets the need for validation and replaces it with conviction. You stop asking for approval and start taking responsibility. This doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means forward motion in spite of it. Fear loses power the moment action begins. Momentum silences doubt faster than reassurance ever could. Focus is what keeps execution clean. In a world designed to fragment attention, focus becomes a competitive advantage. Most people dilute their energy across too many ideas, distractions, and obligations. Relentless execution requires narrowing your targets. You decide what matters most, and you eliminate everything that competes with it. Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing less with greater intensity. When your attention is concentrated, your results accelerate. Relentless action means you stop negotiating with resistance. You don't wait to feel confident. You act until confidence catches up. You don't wait to feel ready. You act until readiness is earned. Progress favors those who move consistently, not occasionally. Small actions taken daily outperform bursts of effort followed by long pauses. Consistency creates trust with yourself, and self-trust fuels even greater action. Execution also demands speed, not recklessness, but decisiveness. The longer you wait, the more doubt has time to grow. Action collapses time. What could take years of overthinking can be achieved in months of focused execution. You adjust as you go. Perfection is not required. Engagement is. Progress is built through iteration, not contemplation. Relentless action also builds resilience. Every step forward strengthens your capacity to handle pressure, uncertainty, and setbacks. You stop interpreting obstacles as signs to quit and start seeing them as part of the process. Execution reframes failure into feedback. Each attempt sharpens judgment, improves strategy, and builds competence. Over time, you become someone who is difficult to stop, not because